Tim Stapleton's with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Tim, what do you remember when you think back of your career? I mean, you played all over the place. I'd imagine that 11-12 season here in Winnipeg, moving from Atlanta, the excitement around, it must stand out amongst at least the atmospheres that you've played in. I mean, now that we're sort of 10 years plus removed from it, when you think back, what comes to mind about that season here with the Jets?
Yeah, that's a good one because it's definitely like the best year from all aspects of a year could be, I guess. Like just for me, like I was put on waivers and then I stuck around and then I got to play, but it was just in the city. And like, I always laugh and just say we were the lovable losers because like it didn't matter. I know now it matters, right? Like like playoffs, like, like winning and losing. Then it was just like they were happy we were back. So we were just like, it didn't matter. We can win, lose, and we were just welcomed. And for me, yeah, it was awesome. Not only do we have a great locker room and obviously the fans, I always say this, I've probably repeated this before, but it's just funny coming from Chicago, and Chicago's like a hockey. They love hockey. They love the Blackhawks, but they don't love hockey kind of type. Like, if you're at a bar and there's like Blackhawks game on when it's over, they're not putting on like the Columbus game, right? Yeah. And so like where I'm going with this is like, you go to a Hawks game, everyone's just like yelling shoot from the red line and like having a party and fun, and it's great for the game. But in Winnipeg, they're so knowledgeable, all of Canada. And I could go to go to the dry cleaners and the guy there is like telling me like what we should do on the power. And I'm just like, man, were you just in the meeting? Because you're exactly right. Like, so for me, it was just kind of like that almost bubble. Like it's hard to explain. Sometimes I'd come back into Chicago and like, just be like, why is no one recognizing me? Like kind of attitude, And so I was kind of, maybe brainwashed in that way, but overall it was awesome for me. It was the best year of my life, especially for my career. And yeah, no, I mean, I would, if I could do that all over again, I would.
We've had a lot of discussions on the show about coaching. Of course, Maurice leaving, Dave Lowry come in, and now Rick Bowness taking over going into next season. But I've got to ask you, when someone asks you about Claude Noel, what comes to mind? He seemed like such a character, at least for us to deal with in the media.
I always say, like, for me, he was awesome because he kind of like gave me a chance. But he was like, I don't know how to explain it. He was different. I never played for a guy that was just like so kind of positive, like spiritually almost. It was just, when I got put on waivers, I like packed my bag. I took it to like, I think I was staying at Wheeler's house or like the airport, and 48 hours, I knew I was going to clear waivers and go to St. John's. And Claude called me, and I knew it was like the exit speech, right? Like, you're and he did. He gave me like the top 6. You're not a top 6 guy here. Like, good luck, whatever. And 2 days later, I cleared waivers, and Chevy was like, hey, we don't really have any extra. Like, come back to practice, So like I came back and I'm walking in with my bag, and the first guy I see is Claude, and he gives me a fist bump. He's like, "You're still here," and I'm like, man, this guy, And I just, for me, it was just a moment of like, this guy's something. But I know guys maybe had their differences, but for me, he was great. Just because he gave me a chance and kind of was honest with me, and I thought overall Claude is a great person, and he was a good coach for sure. I think, yeah, he knew the game. He was, like you said, he was animated.
No, he was an all-time beauty, I'll tell you that. I mean, we weren't in the room, and obviously the team, had its ups and downs, but there was never a dull moment when Claude Noel was around a microphone as well. And I mean, to go from there to Maurice, I mean, we sort of have been spoiled, at least from a soundbite perspective in Winnipeg. That's for sure. We'll see how things go. With free agency on the calendar right now, I wanted to ask you, Tim, about... I mean, you went, you played the KHL in 3 different spots, the Swiss League, but for guys that are sort of bubble NHLers, what is this time of year like? I mean, we spend so much time talking about Johnny Gaudreau deciding whether he's going to take $9.5 million for 8 years and, the other top guys, but what are the more rank and file? Like, how stressful is it? And what's going on? I mean, when you go into the first day of free agency in your position, what are those conversations with your agent like?
Well, first off, I didn't have the Johnny Gaudreau problems. I wish I did. Like, maybe I'll take $7 million here or whatever you just said. But it was more just like, am I going to play hockey or like, am I going to go like bag groceries? No, honestly, for me, I was a mental, I was my own worst enemy at these times. I think I signed a 1-year contract, pretty much my, my whole career. Maybe 1 year I signed a 2-year thing with Atlanta. But it's hard. It's really hard. And I think anyone can can agree that's in that situation of, especially when you're an NHL guy and you don't know if you're going to, are you going to go overseas or are you going to stay? You kind of the unknown. But the talks with the agents, usually, I don't know. I mean, it all depends. Like it really depends on what you want and what's realistic. For me, it was always trying to be in the NHL. So I was always like hovering around, like, can I get a one way, this and that? But I don't know if I'm making any sense here. I'm kind of rambling. So I think the question you're asking, though, is as far as being in that situation where you're a free agent, you're a bubble guy, it's not the best thing sometimes. It is just a worry and just kind of like, what am I going to do? But usually it plays out. I think guys that really want to play in the NHL try to stay and play in the NHL. And some guys that want to make money. Not saying I don't know who does that. I don't know who just leaves and goes over for money. Like I don't judge those people, but I understand it.
What's the conversation like when you realize that the best offer on the table is going to Russia? Was that a hard sell on you, or was it obviously this is the best deal, let's take it, and I'm going?
That's a good question, but like there was a lockout, and we knew that. And I was talking to Winnipeg, and like Winnipeg wasn't like saying like don't come back. They were just kind of like gonna figure out a few things, and then it was kind of discussed that maybe there was a fit for come back. I wasn't gonna like make any more money. It was just like kind of do what I was doing, be that kind of like utility guy and play like fourth line and don't have to fight and skate as fast as I can and not get scored on, and then like maybe play the power play. And I was all for that. It was just the lockout and the money that I was getting in Russia just kind of at that point, made sense for me. And then when I got to Russia, I mean, I had a good year, and then I played in the All-Star game, and just kind of from there was just the right move for me. But yeah, it's I don't know. I wish the lockout didn't happen. I think maybe I could have kept playing, and I mean the NHL obviously for me was a dream. It was something that was never in the cards. Like I went over to Finland my first year of pro. Like I think my best offer was an East Coast league, which is fine. I don't it wasn't like I was too good for that. I just went over to Finland on a tryout. I had an agent who's the Florida GM, Billy Zito, who was very. You want to talk about the conversations we had at these times? I would be like talking to him, and he'd be like, "Brian Rafalski's call." Like he was pretty honest. Like he's awesome, and so I would just be like sitting there like, "So am I getting this two-way or what?" But I was very lucky to have him. He worked for me, but yeah, no, I went over there just at a time during the lockout, and then I eventually just stayed. Yeah.
That just quickly on Finland, because I mean, you were undrafted through 4 years of college where you had some great numbers at Minnesota Duluth. I mean, it's a very unique path. But you mean tore it up in Finland? I mean, what was that like? And was the NHL? Did you see that as a path to the National Hockey League, or did you go there as, hey, I want to keep playing, and I've got an opportunity in Europe, and that's where I'm going?
Yeah, that's you're exactly right on the second part there. It was late August too. It was like August, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was sitting up in Duluth with just guys I played with in college, and I ended up playing in the AHL like right when college ended. So I kind of like I played 9 games with Portland, and I was like, it was just not what I wanted to do at the time. I wanted to like finish my year out with the guys I played college with. So I was like in Portland, and I didn't play well, and I think that kind of hurt me actually. And then yeah, my agent at the time just had his whole thing was finding these guys like myself that, he had a guy like Billy Lano and Tim Thomas and Brian Rafalski and just guys that might be overlooked. And at the time in Finland, he had his connection and his players over there, and he had Finnish representation and partners. And at the time, this is when like Tuukka Rask was in the league, Antti Niemi, I think Pekkarini maybe. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I don't know why I can't remember a 6'6" Finnish goalie, but I think he was in the league then. I'm not sure. But where I'm going with this is they were getting heavily scouted. And so I played in Helsinki, which is like the main city, and there's always scouts at the games. And for me, I think as I was playing throughout the first year, I signed the second year, and that's when I was like, maybe I can play some years in Europe. And then after my second year, I got an offer from Pittsburgh and Toronto. And I just Toronto was like a signing bonus thing where they gave me like a bunch, some money on a signing bonus, and I went to Toronto, and Pittsburgh won the cup. Like I always, there's many of these decisions that I look back on and I think what if, but I don't. I'm just kidding. I actually am very happy with how everything turned out. But yeah, I ended up in Toronto and just kind of went from there.
Outside of the National Hockey League, number of seasons in the KHL with a number of different teams, the Swiss League, Finland, Sweden, Germany. What was the best place you played, and what was the worst place you played?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's a great question because there is a difference. Like all the leagues are different. And in the KHL, the reason the KHL is the best league is because it's just like they're depth players. They're born players. The Russians are really good. You get to like Switzerland, like their depth guys are like they're like doing 3 jobs, and like and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just saying like there's just more depth in out of Russia. But the best place I played was in Lugano, Switzerland. And it was a city that's like borders Milan, Italy, and like it's right by like Lake Como. And it was just like this. Every day you woke up and it was just like this postcard type kind of view. And they were nuts. Like Switzerland's fans are nuts. Like they'll like barricade the bus and not let you leave, and like threaten like death on you if you don't win. It's like crazy, but and it's fun. But there's a lot of pressure on imports there. That was probably the best place I played. I wouldn't say it was the best like year for hockey, but overall, the best place I played. The worst place had to be this place. Either, I don't know, Neftahimik, it's called, Nizhny-Kamsk. And it's just like, our water was like brown the whole year. Like we had to like, I mean, I don't even want, I'm going to get like, who knows?
You're going to go back into the witness protection?
This will be the last time anyone's ever seen me. So it was just a rough place, but it was also, it was weird because it was like they really supported the team. And, now that I'm done playing, like joking aside, like I actually am really happy that I went to Russia and did all that. I mean, it was kind of quite an experience for sure.